Solve. Our equation is 7x times 3x plus 2 times x minus 4 is equal to 0. Here we have a product. All these are multiplied together and 0 is our answer. So we're going to use the zero product property, which says that one of these factors, either the 7x is equal to 0, or another factor, the 3x plus 2 is equal to 0, or the last factor, x minus 4, is equal to 0. Now we're going to solve each one of these equations separately. This first equation will multiply both sides of that equation by 1/7, leaving us with x equals 0. In our next equation, we will solve for x by getting rid of the furthest thing first. We can add a -2 to both sides of the equation, leaving us with 3x is equal to -2. Continuing to get x alone, we will multiply both sides of the equation by 1/3. Leaving us with x equals -2/3. And in our last equation, we can add 4 to both sides of the equation, which will leave us with x is equal to 4. So we have 3 answers for this problem, and that's because we had 3 factors equal to 0. In our next example, w squared minus 7w minus 8, we notice that this is not equal to 0, and yet we have 2 different variables. W is being squared, and w is also just by itself. So I consider that, even though it's the same letter, not to be the same variable in the sense that I can't put it together to solve and get it alone. So I can add a -8 to both sides of this equation and making that equal to 0. We now have w squared minus 7w minus 8 is equal to 0. So that's nice, it's now equal to 0, but as you notice here we still have these 2 variables. So in this problem what I'm going to try and do is factor, so I can use that zero product property. It says that if you have a product and your answer is 0, then one of the factors has to be 0. When you factor, you break down the first term and put it in the front of both parentheses. You break down the last term, a couple of choices here, 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Normally I would go with that 2 and 4, but this time I noticed that I want a 7, and that won't do it for me. So I'll use the 1 and the 8. I want the result to be negative, and the signs have to be different. So I'll make the 8 negative and the 1 positive. And now I have a product. So I can set each each factor equal to 0. So our first factor, w plus 1, is equal to 0. And our second factor, w minus 8, is equal to 0. And now solving these simple equations, I can add a -1 to both sides. W equals -1. And for this other equation, I can add 8 to both sides of the equation. W equals 8. So this time I only got 2 solutions. And again, that was really indicated by the degree of that equation. The degree indicates how many answers you'll have.